Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We're slowly admitting everybody in the waiting room. If you don't know me, my name is Ashley Hogue. I am the Outreach Director with Hawaiʻi Farmers Union. It's such a pleasure to have you all here today for our resource session. We have the Hawaiʻi Farmers Union Foundation team here. We have the Agricultural Stewardship Hawaiʻi team here, and we have the Farm Service Agency here. So we're going to start with them all presenting some resource information for you. We are recording this session. We will email it out post-session as well as posting it on our YouTube. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat. We will be answering those at the end of this call. And we're just so glad to have you all here tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten from Hawaiʻi Farmers Union Foundation. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ash, and thank everyone for being here and spending your Wednesday evening with us. I'm Kirsten. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Hawaiʻi Farmers Union and Foundation. And we're going to try to get through this first part really quickly so that we can really take some time to answer questions that you guys either put forward in your registrations, or as things are going, please feel free to pop them into the chat. But just to start, I wanted to give a quick overview of why we're here and kind of recap what Hawaiʻi Farmers Union has done at the state level. And then Christian, our Vice President and CFO of the foundation, is going to talk about the funds that HFU has raised and what is to come for those. So I put the link to the survey in the chat, the disaster response survey. Hopefully you guys have been keeping up with it and looking at the dashboard. So this survey was put together by Ag Stew in partnership with the 3 membership orgs. So Cattlemen's, Hawaiʻi Farm Bureau, and then Hawaiʻi Farmers Union. And Hawaiʻi Farmers Union's piece of this that we took on was responding to all of the urgent calls or urgent responses that came through as the 2 Kona Lows hit us. And so 494 farms or ranches have responded. And out of those 494, 383 either marked that they were non-affiliated or HFU affiliated. And so our team has been doing our best to respond to everyone. And in the last 5 weeks, we have made 230 calls to individuals who responded to the survey and done our best to share out resources and information via email. Other things that HFU worked to do is right after the first Kona Low, we reached out to the National Farmers Union, of which we're a chartered member, and asked our lobby team to work to get the president to declare this a disaster, which frees up federal resources and aid, mostly funding through FEMA and for USDA. And so that effort took, I want to say, 5-6 weeks. And the disaster declaration was officially signed on April 15th. Other than that, our focus has really been on trying to respond and get to everyone who filled out the survey. Like I said, we have made 230 calls. That's 2 members on our team who have done that. But we know that we haven't gotten to everyone. And so we really wanted to host this webinar tonight, answer questions. And also, if you are an HFU member and we have not gotten to talk to you yet, and you would like to talk to someone, have your questions answered, just try to get connected to resources, please feel free to respond to the text that you hopefully received today to get connected to your membership coordinator. And if you did not receive a text today, please shoot us an email. We'll make sure that we have your correct phone number and information in our system. But we'd love to talk to you if you would like that. And so please feel free to reach out and we will respond as quickly as we can. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Christian, our Vice President and CFO, to talk about the funds that we've raised and what's to come with those.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for taking some time today to come join us here on the webinar. I know there's a lot of questions to be answered, and I just want to try to give a real brief overview of the Kona Low flood fund that we've launched and how funds will be dispersed. First off, just want to give a big mahalo to everyone who has contributed to this fund. Over the last 4 weeks, we've been able to raise over $700,000 from private donations, businesses, and other organizations that have contributed to this effort. And now we're getting to the point where we can start dispersing it to the farmers affected. So coming on this Monday, we will be launching the grant program for farmers who are affected. If you have filled out the survey, you will be receiving the link to fill it out. So you have a few more, between now and Monday. If you haven't filled out the survey, if you know of farmers who have not, to please have them fill it out so that they can get onto that list. Um, the grant application is designed to be very simple, straightforward. We want it to be, not another burdensome thing, but at the same time, we're trying to do our due diligence as an organization. So there are some questions following up on, assessing the damage, what the impact was, and then that will be used to sort of determine the grants. Just to clarify, our funding through the Hawaii Farmers Union Foundation is separate from any funding that is coming through the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. I saw that question came up in one of the people who submitted. So that $1,500 payment, it's not to do with us and this round of funding. That was a separate pool of funds. And I know based from a meeting earlier today, Chair Sharon Hurd, she announced that they've started to send out letters, and to receive the funds, you need to respond to the email that they send and confirm um, that the damages you reported are accurate. And there should also be another round of funding to help support the other applicants that applied that aren't going to be covered in the initial $500,000 in fund. However, just to be clear, that's a separate pool of funding than what we're here to talk about tonight. Yeah, so I think, it's just want to leave with that, the damage that has been reported and the damage that farmers have experienced across the state. This grant program is not going to be able to solve all of the problems and rebuild all the farms. This is really designed to help those that have been most impacted and also to help, get them from that first step on recovery. And, while they can sort of, work with FSA and other agencies and other programs that are hopefully coming down the pipeline to support the longer term full rebuild. And I think we'll leave questions till the end, and I will hand it off to Amanda and the Ag Stewardship team.
Thanks, Kristen. Aloha, everyone. I'm Amanda Shaw at Agriculture Stewardship Hawaiʻi. I will basically just be introducing and then turning over to our team to share more details about funding opportunities. But just wanted to share, we have a statewide food systems coordination policy initiative that's a partnership with the state of Hawaii. And through that work, we recognize, through the long work that many organizations have been doing throughout, the crises that have come before this most recent disaster, there was a need to come together and coordinate better to support farmers and the food system. And so what was a tool that was kind of in its pilot stage before the first Kona Lows rapidly became something that was deployed. And so that was through a partnership and again, brings together multiple organizations. So just to say that, we recognize that communities are often leading in this area. And so it's great to be part of an amazing community of farmer service organizations that also want to support much of the amazing on the ground work that's been happening. And so as we've gone through this process, we've been learning a lot and trying to pull together as much as we can around, on the Ag Stew team side, as much as we can around clarity for what financial opportunities there are and when they are likely to pay. So we will try to include some links as colleagues go through that information throughout the session. And with that, I'll turn it over to, I think, Sophie.
Hi everyone, I am Sophie with Agriculture Stewardship Hawaii. I had put here, I'm just gonna send them off. I am going to share on some of the materials we've put together that cover a wide range of resources and cover guidance for things from preparing for a storm to those in urgent situations to those that are shifting to recovery and accessing post-disaster relief services. There's going to be quite a few QR codes in the next few slides, so I just threw the links right in the chat so you guys can have easy access to them. But firstly, we put together a brief resource guide that includes stagnant information and contacts for emergency, basic, and livestock needs, as well as resources for other agricultural relief services and service provider contacts. I wanted to highlight that one important link within the resource guide is for our online inventory of ag resources. This is kind of our master list of stagnant but also newly emerging resources for producers that were impacted by the storms. And this list, this online spreadsheet is regularly updated to include new resources, new funding opportunities, informational events, other farm services like organizations starting to offer assistance with debris cleanup or helping with program paperwork. So I'd recommend viewing both like this resource guide and then the spreadsheet as well, kind of for the most comprehensive look at the resources that might be available to you and your farm. Another material I want to share with all of you is a funding fact sheet that we've prepared. This document is solely for disaster relief programs that are targeting farmers and ranchers, so it doesn't have funding opportunities that are just for general population. We we included information on the different programs and the eligibility requirements, and then the program timeline in terms of when you apply to when you can expect to be able to access assistance. So this is another document that you can reference periodically as we're updating it when new funding opportunities are launched for farmers and ranchers. One thing I wanted to highlight on our funding fact sheet is that when you're accessing it online, when we're at events, we're bringing printed materials, but when you're accessing it through the QR code that was on the past slide, there are tabs on the left-hand side that have some helpful templates if you are reaching out to lenders or grant funders to request a meeting or any accommodations such as loan deferrals, emergency funding, or extensions on contracts. And I will kick it over to Rachel briefly on our team to speak on some more funding opportunity information.
Thanks, Sophie. Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Fukumoto. I'm the farmer grant writer at Ag Stewardship Hawaiʻi. This is just a resource that we provide to folks who register for our newsletter. We call this our funding newsletter. It goes out every 2 weeks. Right now, it does include just updates on grants, loans, job opportunities that are available. However, we have been updating it with some of the disaster programs as well. We have a QR code here to sign up to subscribe for the newsletter. The latest issue will be going out tomorrow afternoon. So if you subscribe either tonight or tomorrow morning, that should hit your inbox by the afternoon. Along with the funding newsletter, you can get in touch with the team or if you need help, services, any grant writing services too. We offer all of that free of charge. And then next slide, Sophie. So included in our newsletter is a link to our Hawaii Food and Agriculture Funding Database. And so we typically only include a grant or loan opportunity once in our newsletter. However, we are leaving up the disaster programs until they expire. But if you did want to go back and check what grants we have mentioned in the past, you can go ahead and look at our funding database. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rachel. One last resource that I wanted to highlight coming from our Farmer Help Desk is that we are offering both in-person and virtual assistance appointments to farmers that are looking to register with the Farm Service Agency. The Farm Service Agency is one of the many agencies within the USDA, but being registered with Farm Service Agency is a requirement for being eligible for all relief programs offered by the USDA and the agencies within it. Additionally, nonprofits that use federal funding often require having registration with Farm Service Agency. So if you are not yet registered with them, you can self-register through filling out the forms on this slide and then submitting them to your local county office, which Kristen from Farm Service Agency will go over a bit more after me. But if you would like assistance with getting registered, we are offering 30-minute virtual appointments or 1 hour in-person appointments out of our office in Kunia to help you fill out the paperwork and then submit it for you to Farm Service Agency. Thank you.
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay? Thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Hey everybody, I am Kristen Kiriu. I'm the Farm Programs Chief with the USDA Farm Service Agency, and I'm actually out of the state office, so I take care of Hawaii, American Samoa, Guam, and CNMI. But today I just came here to kind of give a quick briefing on what programs we have available for flooding assistance, and then go into how we get started with helping you. So just a quick overview, we have a bunch of different crop and livestock disaster programs that provide relief for losses due to natural disasters. I'm going to just run through them really quickly, very high level, just to give you an idea of what the programs are. The Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program, or NAP, that's like our insurance product for the actual production losses. So it'd be yield losses for vegetable crops and fruit crops, and then value loss for cut flowers or nursery. The Livestock Forage Disaster Program, or LFP, this one is actually not flood related, but it is one of our disaster programs, and we pay ranchers for drought related forage loss. So Hawaii County and Maui County is actually eligible for LFP in 2026 due to the drought in the beginning of the year prior to the flooding. So that could be another program for ranchers to apply for so that they can get extra funding. Livestock Indemnity Program, or LIP. This program pays for livestock death losses. So if you had, a cow that drowned, or goats or sheep, pigs, basically any livestock type, poultry as well, we can cover it under the LIP program. The Emergency Livestock Assistance Program, or ELAP, covers honeybee losses, so colony and hive losses, and we also cover aquaculture losses. So if you lost your fish, you had fish death and or fish feed losses. We also cover livestock feed losses as well. So if you had, a bunch of hay or, horse feed or something in your barn and it got flooded, that's things that we would cover under the ELAP program. The Tree Assistance Program, or TAP, covers tree loss. So the tree must have died. It has to be a fruit or nut tree, and the tree has to be dead in order for it to be eligible. And then you have to have a 15% loss. So things that would probably be covered under there would be like papaya. We have a lot of coffee and mac nut losses on the Big Island. But any type of fruit or nut tree would be eligible under the Tree Assistance Program. And then the big program that I really came here to talk about in a little bit more detail is the Emergency Conservation Program. So for that program, the sign-up period is a defined period of April 1st to June 1st, 2026. The rest of our programs that I mentioned, varying deadlines, but really it's open all year round. As soon as you notice something, that you lost something or you had damage, call our office, and then we usually can sign you up for those other programs. But for the ECP program, we have a designated sign-up period. So from April 1st to June 1st, we have little over a month to continue to collect applications. It is a cost share program. So what that means is that you front the money to restore your farm, and then we pay you back either 75% or 90%, depending on your designation of if you're socially disadvantaged or limited resource on a farm. But basically, you front the cost to fix your farm, back to pre-disaster conditions, and then we pay you back a percentage. Practices that are included in ECP or things that we could help pay for would be debris removal. So cleaning up your cropland, you know, debris came through the flood, there's debris everywhere. We'll help to clean that up. We can do fence replacement. We can do minor grading and shaping, so we're not going to go below, you know, your current plow level or anything like that, but any kind of surface grading, shaping, we can help with that. And then we can help do conservation structure replacement. So that would be like irrigation. It could be other types of conservation structures that you had in place already, and then that we're just helping you replace it. There is a payment limitation, so there's 500,000 per person or per entity. That seems like it's a lot, but you know, for some of the bigger farms, they hit that pretty quickly. There is a 25% advance payment, so even though majority of your payment is going to come after you complete the practice and you finish the cleanup, we can do a 25% advance payment upfront at the time of the application approval to get you started and give you some money to get the cleanup going. We will be asking for dated photos, so we want to make sure that, you know, we can have some sort of documentation to make sure that you actually had the losses. We'll be asking for those photos up front. And then if you can provide a list of your infrastructure losses and the extent, right? So if you lost fence, you would say, hey, I had 500 feet of fence that got washed out or something like that. I did want to put a quick plug in. We do have other programs, so we don't only do disaster assistance type programs. We have other ad hoc and other programs. We have the Reimbursement Transportation Cost Program, or RTCP, which helps to offset extra transportation costs, and we expect sign up for that program to be in July. It is funded for 2026, so we're getting ready to roll that out as well. And then we do have the food safety certification for specialty crop program, FSCSC, which reimburses a percentage of certification costs for food safety. So where do you start? Basically, you know, like I think Sophie mentioned, you have to establish your basic eligibility with us for any of our programs, and this is both for FSA and NRCS. You'd be completing the same forms. Those are forms 80, 2047, 1026, 941, 902E, I or E, and then the 860 is an optional form. But it's basic information. I think maybe total completing all of the forms, depending if it's an individual, you're just doing one form per person, right? So maybe it take you 15, 20 minutes to complete all of it. If it's an entity and you have multiple members, it might take you significantly longer if that's the case. But you know, Ag Stewardship is there to help you, and then our offices as well can help fill out forms. And we're also taking appointments too. So we're encouraging producers to just call our office, and then we'll schedule an appointment with you either via phone or in person, and then we can help people get started with us. One other important thing that we also will need to do in order to establish your farm record is we need a copy of your land documentation. So we're gonna need like written land control to show that you have control of the property and that you're allowed to farm there. So that would be like your deed or a copy of your lease. It could be subleases, basically anything to trace from the owner down to you as the producer or farmer to show that you have control and you have the right to be on the property. I put this slide in here just so that everybody knows we do a monthly e-newsletter as well, like many of the other partner organizations, and we do text updates when we do sign up. So I encourage everybody to go to our website there, scroll to the bottom of the website, type in your email address, click subscribe, and then you can add whatever county, Hawaii County you belong to, and then you can get those information for us. And similar to, you know, everybody else's e-newsletter, we kind of summarize what's going on, what's the most important signups, what's the deadlines coming up, things like that. And then lastly, my last slide, I just wanted to put in all the information for all of our staff. So this is all of our FSA staff that we have in Hawaii working on these programs. I encourage everybody to reach out to your local contact on your island. If you don't know where to start, I'm here to help. You know, I kind of oversee everybody in Hawaii and, like I said, the Pacific Basin. But if you don't know where to start, reach out to me. I'm glad to help anybody at any time. So please feel free. You know, we're here to help you guys, and we want to make sure we're a good resource. But thank you guys. I'll stay on for anybody's questions.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. And thank you to the Ag Stew team. So I just got pinged by our advocacy director, Hunter. Thank you. With more information around the federal funds that were released or are becoming available via FEMA after that disaster declaration, and I'm going to pop that link in the chat. One thing that I want to just encourage people with, I've seen this in a couple questions that have come up through the registration and now in the chat. We know that all of the grant and funding opportunities are a little bit overwhelming. And so I'm going to give another plug to Sophie and the Ag Stew team to please go back to their funding fact sheet and keep going through that, because that will be updated and it will call out those specific flood resources. And so please don't feel like you need to get it all today. You can keep referring back to those funding sheets and work through it and just see which ones may fit. Maybe they all fit for you, maybe some fit. But just to summarize, so we have our funds, the Hawaiʻi Farmers Union Foundation funds, that will be released next week. The link will be shared out to everyone who responded to the disaster survey, as well as all current HFU members. And then we have Ag Stew, who compiled the awesome funding sheet that you can refer to and see what might fit. And then Kristen is with the FSA, and she went over all of their available fundings, specifically maybe the ECP in relation to the flood impacts. And then what I just popped into the chat is FEMA. They are federal funds that are available post-disaster response. So I know that's a lot. Hopefully that clarifies. I have seen a lot of things in the chat around the HDAB 1500 grant. If someone is on the call from the state Department of Ag, we'd be happy. Please raise your hand, and we'd be happy to let you answer some questions if you would like. Otherwise, we're putting the contact information for that program in the chat, and we encourage you guys to reach out directly to them because that is a state program and it's a different pot of funds than the ones that we're talking about tonight. All right, Nani, I see that you're on the call, and you asked, I think during Kristen's speech, can they submit videos of their damage in place of photos?
Yeah, we can accept videos. I think it's hopefully it's not like a really large size video, so you're able to email it to us, but we can accept videos. We've been trying to be really flexible on that. You know, we understand that sometimes a video is just as good as pictures. So normally what we'll try to do is we'll get the video and then we'll take some stills, because we still have to print it for our physical file, right? And we can't print the actual video, but we'll take some stills from the video. So yeah, we can accept videos. Not a problem. Good question.
Awesome. And also for you, Kristen, the ECP, does this also include extreme wind damage that exacerbated the water damage? This is from Krista. Okay.
Yes. So the ECP, we can do wind damage, and then we can do flooding. There's also probably some other small types of different disaster types, but it's kind of wrapped all into one. We kind of made sure that it was very broad, so we kind of could, make sure we get everybody in there and eligible. So high winds for sure, and then flooding. I know there might have been like landslide type things, that sort of things. Anything to do with the flooding and or effects thereof is eligible for ECP.
Awesome. Thank you. Nani, back to your question for our grant application, the HFUF one, when you fill it out, it will only accept photos. Again, that's more of a size issue when it comes to uploading files and making it all fit into the database and the software. So for us, it'll just be photos, but please feel free to take screenshots of your video and use that. Whatever you have is great. Also, a question that we've been receiving is what language will our grant application be in? The primary language is going to be English. We are working on getting a plugin installed so that it will easily work with Google Translate. And we're hoping, I can't make any promises because we're trying to get this out as quickly as we can, but we are hoping that that will work and be easily kind of easy to put over through Google Translate. Let's see. Sophie, Mara asked, so if we go to each source's website for each fact sheet. If this is in relation to the funding fact sheet, Sophie, if you want to plug in y'all's link under her question, AgStu is trying to do their best to put together one comprehensive resource for all the funding available. And so I would really encourage you guys to really keep your eye on that, save that link, pin it in your Google Drive so that you have it at the top of your list and can refer back to it. Anything you want to say there, Sophie or Amanda?
Yeah, I'll throw in the funding fact sheet one more time so it's easy, quick access. We also do have like a links page for our website that does have the resource guide, a link to the disaster response tool, which I'm sure so many people here have filled out, as well as the funding fact sheet. So I'll throw that in too.
All right. Paula, I see your question. Can we submit links to our social media accounts that document damage? Please try to upload the photos. We will be going through hundreds of grant applications, most likely. And so if we just have those photos, that will be super helpful to our team as we try to review all of the grant applications. And again, screenshots of videos are totally fine. How will the app get to farmers who might not be members and don't speak English? Is there any on the ground or canvassing planned? We're not going to do any on the ground canvassing at this time. We're just going to do our best to share out the resource via anyone who responded to the survey. We do know that there was a lot of on the ground canvassing efforts around the survey, which is why we're using that as a source, as well as all current HFU members. Kristen, this looks like a question for you. When you say ECP is a percentage of the debris removal, should we have an estimate for this, or how is this calculated?
Ooh, awesome question. So we use our designated rate. So it's usually either light debris removal or heavy debris removal, and we do it by acreage. So it's going to be a open dialogue question. You know, you contact our office and say, hey, I want to apply for ECP. One of our staff members will be like, okay, let me pull up your farm. We're going to pull up a map of your farm. And then we're going to, while we're talking to you either in person or we're going to email you back and forth, we're going to try to figure out where was the damage on your farm, right? So say you had 2 acres of farm, but only the flooding happened maybe on 1 acre. So we'll do like 1 acre of heavy debris removal, or, you know, and so there's different categories that we have, not just light and heavy, but there's tree stump removal and all these different practices. And based on what we come up with on your map and the practices and the extent, right? Either the acreage or the square footage or the fencing, it'll be footage, right? In feet. It'll give us the maximum cost share amount. So it'll tell you, okay, you had, you know, X amount of acreage of this type of debris removal, it's going to be $2,000 or something like that. So it's hard to say, you know, what it is per acre necessarily, because it's just going to vary case by case. But when you're working with one of our staff members, it's an interactive process, right? Meaning you're going to give us your photos, you're going to give us your documentation. We did get a waiver where we're not required to do an on-site visit in the initial application phase. So we're really going to be relying on your photos, right? And, you know, photos say 1,000 words. So I think, you know, submitting the appropriate photos for your damage is how we're going to kind of match up what costs and what cost share is going to be approved.
Thank you, Kristen. And along those same lines, does ECP only claim for replacement? Does it cover the loss?
Good question. So infrastructure loss, ECP only pays for the replacement. So we're not going to pay for just the loss. You have to replace what was there. Loss of infrastructure is something that we don't cover if you're not going to replace it to what you had before.
Awesome. Ping Fang, how do we estimate the damage or loss of soil flushed away during the storm for a farm on a hill? This is a very good question. I don't know if anyone wants to chime in with any thoughts, but it is a hard one to try to quantify, and it's been one that we've been trying to work through even for our grant application. And a lot of our ranchers experienced heavy topsoil erosion and washout too. And so like the best advice I think that we have is what would, if some of the areas are too big to even kind of try to think of replacement at this time, and obviously building your soil takes a lot of work and time. And so just really try to work through what it might take for you to regenerate your soil and or replace it through bringing in soil or compost and trying to kind of rebuild that organic debris for the area of which you lost soil or had serious erosion or washout. It is a very, unless someone else, I've missed something over the weeks, like I don't know that we have a very clear answer or formula, but it's a great question. All right, Ash, have I missed any? Oh, we have some new ones coming in. Kristen, what if the fence repairs are more than what was initially estimated? Mia is currently working with Aaron in Hilo FSA.
Oh, we can definitely modify your application. So my suggestion would be give Aaron a call, say, hey, you know, our estimate of fencing actually is more than. We can actually do adjustments as well. So before we actually do the final payment, we'll probably be coming out to actually measure the fence to make sure it's accurate. And then, you know, we can adjust there. But if you know upfront already and you submitted an app, but you want to revise it, you can go ahead and revise that all the way up until June 1st, and we can adjust those numbers, no problem.
Awesome, thank you. Krista, is there anything available to help with the complete loss of my manager's cottage? All contents are completely destroyed, including the company computer and phone. Again, I would just highly encourage you to go through AgStu funding fact sheet and see read the descriptions and see what's out there and see if any of the funds available might help address that.
I'll just add in, I think the FEMA funds would be, and it's not going to cover all of it, but it'll cover up to 770 of that. It specifically lists household items.
Curtis, how about if there's a lot of mud, say more than a foot across? Any thoughts on how to quantify? Again, great question. Some ways to think about it, or at least the way we've been talking about, is like, what would be the cost of remediation? So if you need to rent, you know, a skid steer to remove that top layer of mud, what would that look like? How much would that cost? And or what's the lost revenue? So let's say that mud buried your like where you grow your vegetables. And so like, what's the loss of production in the time that it will take you to remediate and clear, and then bring compost and other soil back in to try to reestablish your soil and your grow area and then replant. So, you know, it might be 3 to 6 months. And so like, what's your lost productivity and revenue on top of the cost to remediate? All right. Louis, is the program will cover the farm tools because of the flood? If this is related to the FEMA worksheet that we popped in the chat, I believe so. But if I am misreading that, please let me know. Thank you. Okay, Kristen, for you again, from Kelly. For the ECP, we lost fencing due to heavy machinery needing to gain emergency access to clear debris from under the bridge located behind our farm. Would that be covered?
Quick answer, technically no. I think we can, you know, probably work with you individually, and you know, you can reach out to your local office and talk through that with them. Sometimes we try to find as much flexibility as we can, and I think it depends on the scope too and the extent, right? So technically, based on policy, the answer would be no if it's just for that. But like again, call our office and then we can work with you individually on that.
All right. I think I'm caught up in the chat. I hope so. Mitch, how can I find out if I'm registered with the FSA? The best way is to call your local FSA office. If you just search Hawaii FSA, all of the office contacts will pop up, and reaching out to your local office is the best way. Ash, are there any chats that came through the registration that we haven't covered?
Mainly, I'm seeing a couple of questions on subleasing. So how does sublease work? I'm on the land, but I found out sublease have a harder time getting help. And then I'm unable to complete Form CCC 855 annual lease agreement certification statement. Since my farm is a sublease, I have only a verbal agreement and no original written contract. Furthermore, I possess only satellite coordinates for the detailed address. So just thoughts on like subleasing would be helpful for folks.
Awesome. Okay, so that's a complicated question. Like I kind of had mentioned before. So the 855 form that they're referencing is our one-pager, like land documentation form that we can get for producers from producers in lieu of having like a written lease or something like that. But you would still need the owner of the property or whoever's authorizing you there to sign that form, right? And saying that, hey, producer A is authorized to be on this farm and they're farming the land. So for us, I know we have a lot of verbal agreements for leases and things like that. And unfortunately for our programs, because we are paying out federal funds, we require something in writing. So that has been a hiccup for us for many, many years that we've tried to get flexibilities on. And one of the flexibilities that they came up with was that one pager, the CCC 855 form, which is a one pager where you could try to get your landlord to sign off on. And really, it's just asking you for what's the amount of acres and what kind of costs go into it. Like, do you pay rent? What's the agreement, right? Do you pay for the fencing? Do you pay for the maintenance? Who gets the share of the crops? Things like that. But there's really no way around the written land documentation part on our side, because in order for us to build a farm and track and associate a producer with a farm, they have to have some sort of written documentation. And that's for everybody's protection too, right? We don't want people coming in and saying, I own that farm over there, I farmed that 5 acres, but then there's no written proof, right? And then so everybody would be claiming all different land, even though it's not theirs to be claimed. So I think that's why we've always set that into place nationwide. But it has been a hiccup for us in the past and continues to be. We understand that there's a lot of producers and farmers, ranchers out there that have just verbal agreements with people. But unfortunately for our programs, you'll have to have something in writing.
Thank you for that.
And while you were speaking, Kristen, another question popped in the chat for you. With ECP, does the area affected have to be in production, or does assistance also apply to surrounding areas? From Jasmine.
Awesome question, Jasmine. It should be the actual producing areas. So it has to be your cropland. We do some debris removal outside of the cropland. Say it's your road, right? And you're trying to get to your farm. We can do debris removal on the road. But generally speaking, it should be the actual cropped area, the farm area.
Awesome. Thank you. Ash, any more questions from registration?
I feel like we've covered almost everything else.
Awesome.
Is there anybody that feels that we didn't answer their question that's on this call that maybe they emailed in?
Kristen, another one just popped in the chat for you from Shane. Is the ECP payout strictly capped based on acreage? Our farm is Manini, but we had several feet of soil loss, total loss of our infrastructure, and significant damage to historical low E and retaining walls. The cost to recover is going to be significant, even though our footprint is small.
Yes, there is. So we have a cap based on the land value. So the agriculture land value, we cannot pay more than 50% of that. And so each county has set their own land value. I believe Maui County is like 60,000 an acre. So basically, if you had 1 acre, you could only get up to $30,000, right, for us. So it's that 50% of the ag land value. So that's something that, I encourage you, Shane, to work with your local CED or your local FSA person and try to figure that out. We've been trying to make sure that everybody maxes out, as far as much as we can for the small acreage ones. And we realize that something that we can look into is getting a waiver for that 50% ag ag market value. So we're going to be looking into that. But as of right now, it is capped based on the ag land value of your county, depending what county you're on.
Awesome. And Shane, just because you noted that you came in late and kind of in relation to your question, Sophie, if you don't mind yet again popping in the link to y'all's funding fact sheet under his question, so that he has that link. So AgStu Shane is compiling all of the funding resources that are available. And so please take a look at that list. And then the HFUF, our foundation funding link, will be live early next week to all respondents of the survey, as well as current HFU members. So please be on the lookout for that as well. But we're sorry to hear that you had such great impact. All right. Anyone else?
Oop, a few more.
Yep. Okay. Are labor expenses covered for flood response and cleanup? Is this specific to ECP funds? I don't know, Kristen, if labor expenses would be a part of that estimation. Okay.
So the way ECP works is it's flat rate. So essentially, we go through that process with the producer and decide, what level of debris removal they need or what level of grading and shaping they need, how much footage of fencing they need. And then we come up with this dollar amount. And then on the producer's end, they have to keep record of how they're coming up with the cost, right? How much does it cost you to put in to do all the debris removal? So we're going to be asking you to keep your labor logs, keep track of how much time it costed you, because a lot of times you're doing the labor yourself, right? So we're going to ask you to keep a calendar. It's one of those things that we've seen in the past where, we've had to do this not to exceed thing, but now that we're moving to flat rate, we're just telling producers, hey, keep all of your cost documentation because we're going to put it in your file. And if you get spot checked a year from now, everything's in your file, you're good to go. You don't have to try to reproduce the documents and find them. So they are covered in there. It's all built in the price per acre or the price per foot. So yep, they're all included in there.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. Question from Krista: nursery roof 70% damage. In addition to plants, will you point me where to go? I would, again, just highly recommend going through the AgStu funding sheet yourself, because you know what your damage is and what your, farm situation and land ownership situation is. Again, please apply to the HFUF grant that will be coming out early next week. If you responded to the survey or if you're a member, you will get the link. Otherwise, the funding fact sheet will have all of the resources there, and you can see which one you might qualify for or which one might be a good fit for your specific situation. From Tina: I called our area FSA person and was told that they'd get back to us for ECP. That was a couple of weeks ago. Should I call our office again? Thank you for your time and help.
Great question. We only have 6 of us working on it statewide, so we're trying our best. What we're doing right now is putting people on an inquiry list, and we're doing it first come, first serve, going down the list, similar to like HFU is doing with their calling back. So we're doing the same thing. We're putting everybody on a list. So I assure you that we will get back to you. But if we don't get back to you by like the last week of May, definitely call our office and be like, hey, I'm just following up, I'm checking in, because we want to make sure we get everybody in. So I think it's just probably, we're trying to get there, but I do think that, our plan is to make sure we hit everybody by mid-May, hopefully. So if we don't contact you by then, please call us back. We want everybody to call us multiple times if you gotta.
Thank you, Kristen. I know you guys are working very hard, and it's a lot for a small team, but you guys are doing great. I think that is all the questions in the chat. Timothy, I'm not sure what meetings you're referring to. If it's an FSA meeting, that would need to be scheduled directly with the point of contact at your local office. If it's a inquiry for the Farmer Help Desk under Ag Stew, they again will have a scheduled time, whether virtual or in person, at their offices in Kunia. All right. I think that is all the questions. Want to give Amanda and Sophie anything that you guys would like to share as you've been listening to the questions, anything we missed or any insights from y'all's team?
Thanks so much, Kirsten. Well, I can just say, yeah, appreciate folks coming in and sharing what they're going through, and just like being, asking questions is really important. I think following up with folks is really important too. We know there's lots going on, so it doesn't hurt ever to reach out. The folks at FSA are incredibly responsive and doing all that they can. We know some of the other agencies that are trying to support as well, so don't be shy to bird dog, I guess, would be my 2 cents in this moment. And yeah, we'll turn it over to Sophie for any other last points.
Yeah, thanks everyone. No, I just wanted to highlight, like, with the funding fact sheet, and anyone that came in late, funding fact sheet is really just for opportunities that are open to agricultural producers. If you are looking for a more comprehensive list, that is where then you would reference the resource inventory. I can send that link in one more time. And so that will have things like the FEMA individual assistance that is more open to people outside of the agricultural community.
Awesome.
Ladies,
Well, we did it.
Kirsten with FSA, is there anything you would like to say before we leave?
I don't have anything else. Just thank you all for being here. Again, we want to support the best we can. So just encouraging everybody to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. We want to see your damage, and we want to help, get you signed up for programs. So encouraging everybody, just call our office and we'll be here to help.
Awesome. Well, if Kirsten and Christian, you don't have anything left to say, I think that is everybody and their questions. And so stay tuned to your email inboxes. We, like I mentioned at the beginning, we have recorded this session. We will email it out to everybody, and we will be posting it on our YouTube as well. So we just thank you all for everything that you're doing and taking your time out of today to join us today to learn and to share with your neighbors. And our hearts are all with you. So with that, I think we'll end our session. Thank you, everybody. Aloha.